Hi, folks. I'm Dominic Shadbolt. I live near Oxford in the United Kingdom, and just over a year and a half ago, I started a YouTube channel called themsguy.com, and it's just a real solo effort. It's me off my own back with a green screen, and it's a patient-to-patient resource because I have had MS for 29 years now, and it doesn't make me an expert, but I've certainly got experience coping with it. And hey, Michael, when somebody tells you you got MS, you have had your world has been rocked. The rug's been yanked from under your feet. You're on this sort of path like this, and all of a sudden somebody said, and turn left. So, it's to try and help and share some of my stuff and my contacts with other people.
Well, can you tell me about your journey, 29 years ago and then living now of living with MS?
What was funny was yesterday somebody said, have you got a bio? And I thought, I haven't. And it made me write it. And it started with, I was diagnosed 29 years ago when there was no internet. There were no mobile phones. You just kind of, being a young 24-year-old guy, oh, those were the days. You know, somebody tells you that, it's just unreal. I mean, it's just like, okay. And the furthest I got into it was, you read books and you got a very limited, you don't have the social networks that we're used to now. And whereas I can sort of reach out and somebody in India might see a video, or somebody in Pakistan might see the video, or somebody in Georgia. You
Right.
just don't know. Or Northern British Columbia. You don't know. And that's the kind of cool thing. But I didn't have any of that. And so I did what most, I think, young men did. Things that you just ignore it. You get on with life because, you know, um, the phrase I've always heard is when Jesus wants you for a sunbeam, you're off. So you do silly stuff when you're a young man. You drive cars too fast, thinking that you're incredibly capable. You're invincible. You're not gonna die. So I did that, and then if we scroll forward about 6 years ago, you know how there's something that happens that you until you look back, you don't realize that was sort of the trigger point. And in the United Kingdom, there was something which really got up my nose called the Disabled Persons Rail Card. And they said, well, you can only have this if you're a certain level of disability. And I thought, that's absurd. MS is a hidden illness. I mean, much of the stuff, you look at me, you hear me, you don't know that my left leg just constantly buzzes, for example.
Right.
Um, but I took them to task on this and said, it's a disability. It's listed in the Equality Act. Why are you trying to play this silly game where you, the people who are giving it, are trying to decide your definition of what constitutes disabled enough? And it got on my nose. And I, under no umbrella of anything, I just sort of took on the idea that I'm going to make you sods either really defend this point, and I'm going to make you do it in a public forum. And it was a sort of classic, let's discuss this in court because that's probably the best place to do it. And in a corporation or a thing, no, we don't want to go to court. That's going to make us look terrible. It's like, well, then you can change your criteria, which they did. And it was a sort of, I put it on a couple forums saying, hey, guess what, folks? You can get a disabled person's rail card. Doesn't matter how bad or not bad your MS is, it's listed. And it kind of started from there. I was like, oh, that was kind of fun. Get somebody to not be so. I'm trying not to swear. Bloody minded. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it does make you feel a bit sweary when you think somebody is diminishing your illness you've lived with. You're not making it up. Just because if you've broken your arm, I can see you have an issue because your arm's broken. It's in plaster. You might struggle to open a door, drive a car, whatever. Yeah. With MS, that's the annoying thing is it's not like that in many cases. If you have a wheelchair, then yeah, people go, oh, okay, and then do the classic, what's wrong? To which a friend in a wheelchair says, nothing. What's wrong with you?
Right.
Because you're being judged now through the lens of you've broken your arm, you have a wheelchair, whatever. So it's always tricky, but hey, that's it in a probably lengthier nutshell than you wanted to.
No, and that's, I mean, the big thing when you came forward and started talking more freely about having MS, how freeing was that to you?
More than you'd imagine, because when you're used to suppressing something for ages, take jobs. I used to have what I would call sort of professional careers. I started it long ago in pharmaceuticals and moved into IT and then consulting. And it was kind of something you just, and this is a running thing with MS. Do I tell my employer or not? And I would like to think that everybody played with a straight bat, but the fact is they don't. And I think we all know deep down, I mean, I just hid it. I had a job which involved so much international travel and time zones and stuff. I mean, you really battled through, but because you just don't want people to know, you know, that you don't want them to hear you fumbling things. Or, I mean, I was lecturing in Tel Aviv and I lost my ability to speak like that. I was standing there in front of all these people and I thought, ah, and turned to the board and started writing the most complicated diagram I could think of, which had nothing to do with what I was talking about, but nobody knows. You act like you had this brainstorm of a great idea and you start drawing this thing. You can kind of feel the room going, what's he doing? And actually I'm like, oh no, what's happened? I can't talk. And I'm being paid to, it's those kind of things. And not having to deal with that is a liberating thing, because now it's like, hey folks, if I have an issue, you'll have to give me a little bit of sort of leeway because I've got MS and it does funny things at funny, unpredictable times. Moving on. And that's I've disclosed it. What can you do now?
Right. And then, that helps you so you don't have to hide anything or be like you said, in the middle of a speech and be like, yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was terrifying. You think I'm being well paid to do this. I'm lecturing, and it from something's happening to I can't talk at all took about 2 seconds, and you're just thinking, you have to excuse my language, shit. I mean, anybody's going to think at least that. It was probably ruder versions of that, but you just, and if you've never said it before, you think now is not the time that I want to go into any sort of explanation of why something weird is happening. I'm in the middle of a situation. I would much rather have managed this information flow and set expectations ahead of time rather than what's wrong with him. So but you're right. It's Michael. It's freeing. To to do that. I think it's my brother said to me. He said it's like having a hairpiece that you rely on and then you lose it, and you just gotta fess up to the fact that you haven't got as much hair as you were leading people to believe. It doesn't change you as a person, provided you get your head around that fact.
No, yeah. And then just you talking about it, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder too a few years ago, and I
Yeah.
didn't tell anyone for a few years, just because, like you said, what do people at work think? What did normal people think? Like, not normal people. What do
Yeah,
people you normally
normal.
work with?
We are normal, Michael.
Yes, we are normal. I meant more
Everyone else
the
got to jump in the
people at
lake.
work.
Yeah. But no,
So
you suddenly feel not normal. And then you're judging yourself through the I'm not normal, and you need to get the I'm normal. I'm maybe different, but I'm not abnormal. You
yeah,
need that in your head first, I think, before engaging with the rest of it.